Hello, hello. And for those of you that are already here, there's a surprise. Whoa! It's
Hi.
Chaplain Reverend Caitlin O'Don, she, her, and along with Ethan Smith, he, him. And welcome, welcome. All right, as always, we'll give it a couple minutes to get started and let you guys get in and settled. For those of you that are already there or here,
There's a lot of people already here.
that's how we roll, Katie.
Whoa, usually, okay, y'all like Ethan more than me because typically when I get on and I'm doing a stream, I'm like, okay, we're going to wait for everybody to come in. Nobody's
Don't set up Cash to bash me. Come on now. You know Cash is coming out hard now. What's up, Beth? Oh, if you're just joining us, say hi. Let us know where you're from. Beth Carducci talking politics, i.e. football.
Thank you, Cash. Yes, I needed some. I
knew he was coming out hard. Amy Ellickson in the house. Beth Carducci, good to see you all. Robert, hey, Robert. Hey, Chad. Good to see you. Did remember for
Hi,
sure.
Val. Love you.
Nathan in Athens. Valerie from Ohio, logging in from Ohio. Mm-hmm. Eric B in Houston.
I see Jen.
See, Amy likes you too, or loves you too.
I loved Amy also. Love you, Amy.
If you're just joining us, say hi. Hi, Phyllis. Say hello. Let us know where you're from, what you had for dinner, if you enjoyed it. It's bothering me that Katie, her frame, she's taller and closer, and like we don't look.
Okay,
no.
hold on.
Don't change it. You don't need to change it. I'm just saying that I should sit with the discomfort of. Oh my gosh.
Wait, hold on.
This is called enabling.
Hold on, a little more.
No, okay. It doesn't.
Okay, there. Look at that.
Waffles for dinner. All right, I'm in. Jen, we're doing this. I love. What are we doing? All right. Well, it is 2 minutes at turkey for dinner. I like turkey.
Ooh, rice cakes.
And rice cakes. Oh, no, two different answers. Oh, turkey and rice cakes. Okay, I like it. I love that, Chad.
Oh, Chad, welcome. We're so excited to have you as a part of Stick with the Egg.
Thank you so much. Hello, Hazem. Good to see you. Okay. So let's read off the housekeeping so we can jump into some conversation. So my name is Ethan. This is Katie. Welcome to Community Conversations. As always, this community conversation is intended to serve as educational content. It is not intended to replace therapy. For treatment-related questions, please be sure to work with your local provider or contact a clinician. The IOCDF is not a crisis hotline. If you're in crisis or ever feeling suicidal or unsafe, please go to your local emergency room, call 911 or the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988. As always, we want to create as safe a space as possible and be respectful and support everyone. And note, this is being broadcast, as usual, on all social media channels. So keep that in mind as we discuss our innermost, deepest thoughts. I was distracted when Cash requested, wait, I read that backwards. I actually thought it said, can Ethan mute Katie?
No, I was actually looking. I just responded in the thing because I was like, oh, wait, Ethan has the moderator settings. I don't because I'm logged in.
Yeah, no, I'm in control. Look, she can't talk. Go ahead, try it. Yep, see, it's out. Nope, you can't. I can do it faster. Anyway, you keep me. All right. Anyway, how are you doing today, Katie?
I'm doing good today. You know, folks might be surprised. We haven't really gotten to see each other all that much today because we've been working. So today is good. I will say, I'll just go ahead and be honest. I was a little bit OCD sticky before we got on here, and Ethan reminded me you are getting onto a live stream to be inspiring and to live into your stuff, and you need to do it. So I am here with you doing that right now.
Rawr.
Rawr.
She's doing great.
How are you doing, Ethan?
I'm doing good. I had trauma therapy today, which is a little bit of a departure from OCD. But it was extremely difficult and also extremely insightful. So it was a productive day, and we worked, lived into our values, looked pretty doing it. I don't know.
Did a lot of, for Let's see, for chat, our new Stick with the Ick person, we had a lot of stuff going on there today. So lots of fun work, lots of fun stuff.
And Amy, everybody wants to know what you're having for dinner because you made it clear that you are going to eat. You're not rude. We welcome your food. With that, Val's sending you some love.
Thank you, Val. Love you.
And we're sending you love, Val. Sorry, I was reading comments. So first of all, let's do a check-in. How's everyone doing? What's going on? Fill us in. How are you? And what's on your mind? Because we've always got stuff on our minds. But before we jump into hours and hours of Katie Ethan stories.
And we do, okay, hold on. Let me stop with that. Because we do, let me go this way. We do always have stuff on our minds, right? We were talking about this in a support group yesterday, and it came up that I know for so many of us, it feels like our minds are kind of on this constant analyzing every single thing around us. And we ended up having this conversation about people maybe without OCD and anxiety that at points just aren't thinking about anything. And it was like baffling us. It was absolutely baffling us.
Wait, you think they don't think about anything?
Well,
that's better. Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm specifically thinking of somebody that I'm not going to call. It's a clinician friend of mine, has a spouse who explained that when he's like sitting around and he just doesn't like think about anything, he's just there. And it like blew my mind. I'm like, do people do that? It's like, what do you think about? He's like, nothing.
Well, I think we can be present and simultaneously have thoughts that we're not paying attention to. But I think thoughts are always firing. No,
that's true. That's very true. Yeah, okay. I can't imagine not thinking of anything. Yeah.
I know. The quiet is terrifying. Okay, so if you're just joining us, thank you for being here. I see the numbers are going up. Let's see, Beth wrote, I told my therapist that I sometimes wonder how I would handle the COVID fear if I didn't have OCD. Would I still be this fearful? It's a good question. I think a lot of people, when COVID hit, were really afraid and they didn't have OCD. So, that's a good question. But what we do know is what you can do moving forward now. That is Katie and I are perfect for each other. I have signed movie posters behind me, and Katie has a bunch of degrees, and that pretty much sums up who we are to each other.
But part of the reason I was very passionate about having the degrees behind me was because I wanted them framed in pink. So this was for folks who know kind of my backstory. Pink is my favorite color. Everything in Stick with the Ick is pink. All of the stuff.
Everything in our house is pink.
Everything in our house is pink. I have a giant pink chair over there. We have, all sorts of stuff. Oh, and I usually do a question, Cash. Yeah, we can do that in a second too.
Thank you for I had no idea, Cash. I appreciate the informing me.
But for such a long time, I felt like I couldn't wear pink or I couldn't do anything with pink because I thought my intrusive thoughts were too bad. They were too violent, they were too sexual, they were too sacrilegious, all of the things. And I thought I didn't deserve to wear anything that made me smile. So I stopped wearing pink. I wore black and gray for a long time. I actually cut off all of my hair, which is totally valid and a wonderful choice for folks, but it wasn't authentic to me. And it was really only in starting to get better that pink became an exposure color for me in terms of letting myself smile and be happy. And I wish the outside of our house was pink. Amy, Ethan will not let us do that. But when I started going to get some of my degrees framed years later, I went and got one in pink. And the lady at the frame store gave me a really hard time and was like, oh, when you get older, you're not going to like this. This isn't professional. And frankly, it kind of pissed me off because it was so meaningful to me. So I wanted to do all of my degrees really prominently in pink, happy colors. So that's kind of where that came from.
I love all the dialogue. Please know if it's your first time here, welcome. We're having some fun conversation, but always, if you have questions about OCD, related disorders, what you're going through, please don't hesitate to ask. I'd like to highlight Hazem's comment, which is after finding out that you have OCD and that was the problem all along, then you find out there's other problems that came with OCD and just as bad, if not worse. I'm curious if you mean other problems like that are associated with OCD or other problems that are just difficulties in life. And because I relate to this comment, I relate in the sense that, yeah, once you recognize it's OCD and you're able to start tackling it a little bit, you definitely start to see the other things that OCD was making you blind to, because OCD can many times be the most, or feel the most dangerous and imminent and close to your face. So when you push it back a little bit, you diffuse from it, you start to see kind of the other things, and you go, life is sometimes really scary and hard, and I'm in trauma therapy, and that came up after OCD. So I relate to this. I will say though that finding out you have OCD and being able to do something about it is very empowering, and also a lot of the skills and tools that you can learn for managing OCD really apply to life in general. I think you can apply so many of the skills and tools in exposure response prevention, acceptance commitment therapy, and other modalities of treatment, and they work really, really well, especially in today's, I almost said day and age, but especially today, even just the ability to cope with uncertainty a little bit better is an amazing skill. I don't know. What do you think about Hazem's comment?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about, actually, Ethan, when I read this, I was thinking about you and your experience of kind of moving through OCD treatment and always thinking like, okay, well, when I don't know, when I quote unquote fix all of this, then life will be super easy. And then you always say you felt like you kind of got kicked off a bus at the end of OCD treatment and realizing life in and of itself, there were aspects that were really challenging. And I'll say from a chaplaincy perspective, there's quite a number of folks I'm working with right now who are kind of going through that process of, okay, I've gone through this whole OCD journey, and wait, life is still really freaking hard. And how do I navigate that? And I think sometimes there's grief and frustration around that. And also at the same time, Ethan, what you're saying, I think so often folks who go through OCD treatment can navigate the actual challenges of life so much better. I had something really intense come up last week with my business that I was navigating, and it was really interesting because I was actually able to use skills from ERP to like navigate the stress and the anxiety. And I was talking to other friends without OCD, and they're like, oh my gosh, how are you navigating this? And it's like, oh, with my ERP skills. So I think there's this both and of we get through treatment and it's like, yeah, life is still really hard. And we have all these skills to use in life itself.
Perfect, Katie. I love that. Cash just reminded me, I'm going to scroll up to the top because he reminded me of a question that Kylie asked at the beginning before we even got on. Thank you, Kylie. How can you manage re-engaging in life after being discharged from a mental hospital for depression? I've been walking and doing hobbies. That's a great question. And while, we are, I almost said experts, but while we are focused on OCD and related disorders, and that is our primary area of expertise. I'm only lived experience. I'm not a professional. Katie is, well, just look at the back of her wall. Anyway, so
spiritual health, a different professional.
But obviously depression is very co-occurring with OCD, and a lot of the same skills and tools that we use for OCD, we also use for depression. And me speaking from a lived experience perspective that had pretty severe depression with my OCD, I can definitely speak to some of this, and then I'll let Katie jump in for sure. So it's really hard. And whether it's a mental hospital or a residential program or whatever it is where you're sort of stepping down from a higher support atmosphere, it can be really challenging and really scary because, I always equate going somewhere to learning skills and tools similar to like entering middle school for the first time. And you're like a sixth grader and you don't know anything and everything is really scary. And by the time you leave, you're an eighth grader and you get it and you understand the ropes and you're like, okay, great, I'm the king. And then you go out, but then you end up in high school where you're a freshman again and you're like, and it feels all scary. And sometimes you feel like you're going backwards, but no, you're not. It's just, you've kind of leveled up, and that's kind of like the way I like to look at it. So, I've spent some time in a mental hospital and it isn't fun. I hope that you were able to get relief and get some help and stabilization for your depression. I love that you're walking. I love that you're doing hobbies. Behavioral activation is so key and so important to managing depression. And doing things in accordance with your values and things that you enjoy and love, or enjoyed and love, even if, because it's so hard when you're depressed to even feel like, well, I don't feel like doing that anymore. I'm not passionate about that anymore. I don't care. So my biggest piece of advice, and you're already doing so much of it, again, the behavioral activations, is try not to pay attention to your feelings too much. Feelings are such, I think feelings are one of the biggest obstacles to us in terms of getting better from a variety of mental illnesses and mental health conditions. And so, you know, how you feel so many times dictates how you act, but it doesn't have to. So just like, you know, individuals who go to the gym to stay healthy and work out, and they may not feel like it, but they go anyway because that's important to their values. I can't relate to that. I hate the gym. If I
That's
don't
how I
feel
feel
like
about running. That some days I don't feel like it, but it's value driven to me.
so I would say, like, you know, if you don't feel like walking, if you don't feel like doing hobbies, if you don't feel like working, you know, whatever it is, because it's the same thing people say, how do I stay motivated? And it's like, even if you don't feel the motivation, if you don't feel the passion or the desire, do it anyway. Do it anyway and be okay with how you feel. Even if you do it the whole time, you're doing a hobby and you're miserable the whole time, still do it. Right. And it's not easy. I easily say it, but it's not easy. But bring the body and the mind will follow. And that is so, so true. The more you make that a consistent process, eventually your brain and your mind will start to shift. Katie, thoughts, comments, questions, concerns?
You know, you said everything that I was going to talk about behavioral activation, which you just did, but it's really funny because Ethan, I don't think you heard me. The thing right before we just ate dinner that I was like, I need to finish recording something was actually on feelings not being facts and us stepping forward with values despite our feelings. So I'm like, okay, we're on the same wavelength here. And it's because the question I've been getting a lot about religious scrupulosity has to do with, well, what happens when I don't feel connected to God, or what happens when I don't feel even connected to a partner, or don't feel this or don't feel that. And I think the same thing can be true, gosh, in so many different experiences, but especially depression, where you might not feel necessarily compelled to do something. And I think thinking through, what are my values? Yeah, what is meaningful to me? And how do I always tell folks in the scrupulosity world, how do we pray with our feet? But how do we move toward our values? How do we run toward our values? How do we paint toward our values, even if those feelings aren't there? Because feelings aren't facts. And yet a lot of times when we start to engage in behaviors again that are meaningful to us, the feelings actually do come back at some point, which is a really cool thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, Katie. And also, I was just looking down, and Hazem followed up on his, which I have to list you again. Don't get me wrong, I resonate with you, Ethan. And by the way, nobody's required to agree with me just because you're here. You can disagree with me. Cash does it all the time. He barely agrees with anything that I say, and yet we strangely love him for it. So anyway, and I find you very helpful. I guess I meant the majority depression.
Mhm.
So with that in mind, I think what we just said also applies to that. You know, I think witnessing sort of the aftermath of what OCD has caused, and realizing, at least for me, realizing sort of the path of destruction in my life and how to get it back, and learning and seeing and stigma and all of that stuff. Those were all really very real situations that created a lot of angst and depression and anxiety for me. And that is so, so, so common. And all we can really do is try not to live in the past, be in the present, and look forward to the future, understanding that we have knowledge now that we didn't have before, and we can use that to move forward in really healthy, value-driven ways. Anything to add, Katie?
Yeah, I was kind of I was looking at the comments here and got a little bit, I totally and completely agree though. And I think, gosh, for so many people, yeah, we go through this experience with OCD for such a long time that can be so tied to depression. And this is just, it's such a valid experience, and we get to continue to step toward the things that we care about. I was looking at, as you were talking, not that I wasn't listening to you, Ethan, and now I have since lost it. Kim Quinlan's quote, where did it go? Oh no. Oh, how did you find that before me? Okay, thank you, Mike, and now Ethan, that there's no way to feel. And I think this whole conversation that we're having, this really applies, like, again, that feelings aren't facts. There's no right way to feel throughout this process. And I also like to let everyone know that even though your feelings aren't facts, your feelings are still valid. So if you are feeling sad, if you are feeling grief, if you are feeling whatever it is that you're feeling, even though we're not basing the facts of OCD or anything else on our feelings. I want you to know that, the way that you're feeling is still valid and that's still hard and you deserve compassion for that.
And I think time is helpful too. I think that how I felt when I first got better, I was really angry, really, really, really angry. And a lot of good change happens from anger. I mean, I wouldn't be advocating if I hadn't turned that anger into something, because I didn't want anybody else to have to go through what I went through. I'm not saying that has to be your path, but I think that I was angry at the past. I was angry at every therapist that missed it or didn't give me the right tools and skills. I was angry at literally everyone. And as time went on, I started to make peace with the past, and I started to not live in it, not wish I could have changed it, I grieved it, and I allowed myself to experience anger when I thought about it, but simultaneously, okay, I can't do anything about that. What I can do is move forward in a healthy way. And my relationship with the past has changed a lot. And while I wish it hadn't gone down that way, and there are a lot of things I missed that I can't ever get back. You just can't. I like to believe that I'm in this place for a reason, and that's okay, and I can move forward in a really good, healthy way.
And I think with OCD, we see things in a really black and white way, or all or nothing. And I think I will say in my experience, it used to feel like I either had to be stuck in the grief or stuck in being really pissed about my experience or really joyful about my future. And I think where the healing came was realizing that there's gray in all of it, that I can still grieve today, times that were really freaking hard. I can still be pissed off about stuff that I've gone through, and I can still have so much gratitude for where I am now and the work that I get to do, and have hope stepping forward. It's like we get to hold all of those things together as messy, complex humans. And I think that's where the healing comes.
Absolutely. Sam, my comorbidities have been affecting me more as I have done more recognition instead of avoidance. But that's really all I have to say for now. Hopefully you don't mind me putting that up there, Sam. I just wanted to say hi. It's good to see you. And Katie, did you have any thoughts?
My comorbidities have been affecting me more as I've done more recognition instead of avoidance. Yeah. I mean, I would love to hear more about that. I'm curious what you have to. So in terms of just recognizing that, wait, Ethan, can you put it back up? I was still using that to read. Thank you. I think, gosh, it can definitely be really challenging when we have been avoiding things that are really challenging in our lives, and when we've been trying not to think about them. And I think there's something so empowering about being able to recognize other things that are going on outside of OCD. And I also think that can be really hard. I think that can be really challenging. And I want to name, Ethan, I'm curious kind of what you, as somebody who navigates a lot of comorbidities, kind of thinks about this. But I think
nobody knows that, Katie. Why'd you say that?
Because they do. Kind of where you are with this. But I think, one, Sam, I think you're really brave to not be avoiding. And I think that's ultimately, even if you're feeling more affected by these things right now, I think you're really brave to be stepping into that and potentially be stepping into treatment for different things. And that's really freaking hard. And also so brave as you step towards your life. And of course, as we start to bring things to light and think about them instead of avoid them, just like with OCD, they're going to plague us more. And it's going to feel like they're right here, but it's because you're also doing the brave thing of stepping forward and addressing them.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with Katie. It gets worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
And, I think avoidance, just like, if you avoided, just like with OCD, when we avoid a trigger, we may not have the compulsion. We may not do the compulsions. We may not have the obsessions, but we're also missing out on that thing that we potentially really love or care about. And so I think it makes total sense that recognizing what it is, delving into it, trying to figure it out, in a healthy way, is definitely triggering. And I know when I did that, a variety of things that I have definitely got worse before they got better. But with that being said, I'm not, you didn't say this, Sam, but you remind me of it, is that, like, I think diagnoses are great for determining a path forward and how to manage whatever is going on. I don't think too much of diagnoses beyond that, and I think we can get really stuck in comorbidities, and I have this and I have that and I have the other thing. I know when I got diagnosed bipolar, I was really thrown and really upset. At the end of the day, I probably have 4 or 5 diagnoses, and I really stopped focusing on those specifically and realized something in my advocacy, honestly, which is everyone in this space currently strives for the same thing. We all strive for a full, beautiful life. That's what we want to live. We want to live our values. We want to enjoy it as much as we can. We know life can be hard, but that is the goal. So in my mind, it doesn't matter if I have OCD. It doesn't matter if I have OCD bipolar. It doesn't matter if I have PTSD, OCD, somatic symptoms. It doesn't matter what it is. My goal is the same, which is how can I live the most full life I possibly can? And that's all I really want to focus on. So if, having to pay attention and recognize my comorbidities in an effort to get me in a place, in a direction that's moving me forward, that is completely worth it. And nobody here should stigmatize themselves for 1 or 20 things, because we all want the same thing. We all want to live that big, beautiful life, full life that we deserve, and follow our values and do the things that are most meaningful to us. So, yeah.
I'm actually so glad you said that. And it takes me back to, one of my professors wrote this on a lot of my papers, kind of in my doctoral program, because I was writing about specifically OCD and diagnoses and things like that. And they kept coming back to, from a theological perspective, the fact that, okay, our goal is to be thriving humans who are living full, beautiful lives. And yes, the diagnosis, to your point, Ethan, matters for treatment, but yeah. And Eric is even saying, so sometimes things overlap so much. And I think so many people even find that ERP and ACT and DBT overlap with the goals of us really moving toward the things that are the most important to us. So being able to hold all of that and recognize that we're just people who have a lot of stuff going on, who are all striving for the same thing.
Absolutely. And hi, Isostasia. It's good. I'm so glad you're here. And
Lee. Hi, Lee.
Yep. And wow, somebody else popped in. Oh, Lee. Yeah.
Yeah, Lee.
Yeah, Lee. Australia's in the house. Okay. Real quick, I just wanted to say hi to Eric. I've been kind of feeling overwhelmed lately with both mental and physical health, and it's just good to see everyone tonight and hear their stories. Well, we're glad to see you here tonight. We love you, Eric. So I'm glad you're here. CJ said, often people ask, what do I tell people when they ask why I was gone from work or school? This would be whether or not it is OCD or depression residential. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's, I always go back to that. That is such a personal choice. What I think, so I used to work with students as a school chaplain, and I would have a lot of students who went to residential programs for different reasons, or who went to intensives. And I would always talk to them about, there is no shame in sharing the big, brave thing that you just did as a part of your treatment, but you also have no obligation to do that. You can share in whatever way is the most comfortable to you. And I think especially as folks with OCD and sometimes moral scrupulosity, there can be this pull of, I need to be totally honest about exactly where I was and what I did. And whatever is the most comfortable for you is so valid and okay.
Absolutely. I love that Beth wrote this. So I haven't said this in a while, and it's such a great reminder, and it applies to the conversation on depression. It applies to OCD. It applies to so much, which was, I remember, gosh, Beth, a few years ago.
This was in our townhouse early on.
No, this was a few years ago. This may have been before I even moved in with you.
No, because I remember being in the kitchen listening to it while you were upstairs.
Oh, okay. But Beth was talking.
I remember laughing because I was doing dishes while I heard y'all talking about this.
Yeah, we were just talking about opposite action and moving toward your values. And Beth made a comment that she was crying and washing dishes. And I was like, yes, that is the perfect. And I used it for many years, or many times after, that is the perfect thing to say to anyone that's struggling with depression or moving forward or OCD. It's like, we all have to cry and wash dishes, right? We all have to wash dishes and cry. And that is the broken down in its simplest form. That is bringing yourself, whatever it is, bringing your emotions and feelings with you and doing the things that are value driven in that moment. And that's it. It's that clear cut. I would cry and go to work when I was in Boston and really struggling. I would cry and do X, Y, and Z, but crying while washing dishes was so beautiful and so simple. And so I loved that. So just keep that in mind. If you're struggling to get out of bed, if you take a shower, it's okay to cry and wash dishes. So I love that. Thank you for saying that. I love all the conversation. This was in regards to, why am I blanking? Whose comment? But, sorry, I was just.
Oh, Rachel's currently doing the dishes. Yes, Rachel. You can cry or laugh or do all the things.
CJ wrote, there's a feeling that you missed out on life while you were in the middle of OCD bubble, but you have to look forward. And this is to that point of the past and moving forward and realizing what you missed. I think it was Hazem's comment actually about sort of coming into focus from your OCD and realizing that there's so much more. So I think that's a great point. I totally agree with you. And Nathan also, CJ, OCD has robbed me of a lot of things in life, some of which I can never get back. I think we can all relate to that, and it's unfortunate, but you can also create new memories and you can own things differently and do things differently. And I don't know, I think there's a lot of excited in the future. When I first saw this, I didn't see who wrote it. So I was like, wow, your brother's the Dalai Lama. That's so cool. And then I saw it was Cash and I was like, whatever. I did.
Hey, don't judge Cash. Maybe Cash's brother is the Dalai Lama.
All right. You know what? If he is, I'll eat my words. Let's see. Robert, hopefully you don't mind me posting this. I know you're right. I backslid this past week, but I'm at a point in my treatment where I know ERP ACT is a going concern and things will get better. Absolutely. And, I personally try not to label things as a lapse or a backslide. The nature of OCD is ups and downs and ebbs and flows. That is just the nature of it. And it can be for a variety of reasons, or it can be for no reason at all. And so I personally find that a little easier to recognize, like, all right, this is just what the disorder does, and that's okay. And now that I'm aware of that, I'm going to put my skills and tools into the next gear, ERP, ACT, DBT, and kick it up a notch and put it to the curb, put the fire out. And so, I oftentimes when people say backslid or lapse or I'm relapsing or whatever, I sometimes like to reframe and be like, yes, totally understandable. And it can be hard and it can suck. And I kind of sometimes get caught like being pushed back on the roller coaster. But with that being said, I love that you've identified that, number one. Number two, you have, a battle plan. And number three, absolutely things will get better. And it's starting tonight with you just being here. So we appreciate you, Robert. Go ahead.
Yeah, can I speak to that for just a second?
No talking. I'm going.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything Ethan said, but I've had this conversation with folks a couple times this week because I think it's so tempting to be like, oh, I was doing so well. Like, what's going on? Why am I backsliding? And to just be really jerky to ourselves about it. And yeah, I think recognizing it as a part of the process and also recognizing that a blip, a bloop, or a lapse is not a relapse. It really is a part of the journey, and it's a part of just being human. And recovery is never about not having the intrusive thoughts or never engaging in a compulsion ever again, but it's about actually the ability to use our skills and tools when those really hard blip or bloop moments come up. And you probably are going to find, or have already found, that you've been able to do things differently than you were maybe a year ago. And this time, I always say on these weeks, OCD is kind of out of its cave, right? When we're having these blip weeks, and we have a really cool opportunity when it's out of its cave, just like when we're doing an exposure, to punch it in the face and make it a lot smaller. So you have a really great opportunity so that the next time a blip inevitably comes up, it'll be an even shorter blip and you're going to have even more skills and tools around it. So never be mean to yourself or see that as a failure. This is a part of the journey and you're doing awesome.
I love this, Sam. Yeah, blip, 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 and glitch
Yes,
matrix.
glitch in the matrix.
I love
Yes.
that. I've used that.
Sam, I was giving a matrix analogy to somebody earlier, and twice this week I've given matrix analogies in spiritual consultations, and I've gone through this whole thing, and then somebody's been like, "I've never seen the Matrix," and I was really sad.
Wow, they're discussing merch for us. Katie, you think coasters?
I saw a calendar.
Yeah, nobody does a calendar anymore. Plus, no one wants to see me without my shirt. Trust me.
We weren't saying that. It was going to be a fully clothed calendar.
I was just thinking firefighter and like we should do an IOCDF calendar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, have everybody.
Cool. All right. We'll pitch that. I'm sure everyone will be really stoked.
I made Kaylee. I can tell I made Katie slightly uncomfortable with that comment. So
it's fine. You can see my cheeks.
That's super cute. So Eric wrote, I have 4 official diagnoses and 3 of them overlap so closely that they're hard to tell apart. At this point, I just feel like I know myself well and don't have to think so much about which is which. Absolutely. And it's not important. So let if you're seeing a therapist, hopefully let them tease it out and figure it out and just tell me what to do and how to do it. And I'm good with that. That isn't to say that occasionally it's important to identify that, I'm having a manic episode versus a compulsive episode or something like that. But really, I think we don't want to give a lot of time and attention once we have a plan in action. Robert Spence, my first therapist, had all the finesse of a cast iron skillet at a Tupperware party. I'm glad I did not give up. I like that analogy. So
that's awesome.
Thank you for that. Yeah, Sam liked it. I'm glad. And you're not alone, Eric. We're all here. Real quick, I wanted to touch on Nathan because this is one of Katie's. So Katie wrote, I have a terrible problem with moral scrupulosity. I think we can all relate to it to some extent. Do you want to speak a little bit to moral scrupulosity? Why is moral scrupulosity so challenging?
Well, that's a big question. So, I mean, folks who have heard me talk about OCD before, I like to compare it to ice cream. And I say OCD is super nasty, gross ice cream that just happens to come in really gross artificial flavors. And those flavors are really gross and all feel different and blah and all the things, but they're all made up of the same gross OCD ice cream. And they're really based on the things that are the most significant and important to us. And I think scrupulosity is so intense because it relates to literally 2 of the things that are the most important in so many people's lives and that are talked about the most in society. And that's faith and morality. And scrupulosity actually comes from a Latin word, scrupulum, and it means small, sharp stone. And I often describe it to folks as having this little stone stuck in your shoe that you can't quite reach, and you're walking around, and the more that you pay attention to it, the bigger and the more uncomfortable it feels. And I think that's often what comes up when we're talking about either religious or moral scrupulosity, that something starts off as this really small stone, and we ask questions like, well, what if I'm not a good person? Or what if I'm not good enough? Or what if I didn't respond to that thing in the correct way? And the more that we continue to engage with it, that little kind of stone in the bottom of our shoe, before we know it, is this jumbo giant boulder. And Ethan's hearing me ask questions like, what if I end up in international prison because I am the worst human in the entire planet? But to answer why it's so tough, like Nathan, this is, I will say, on a personal level, moral scrup is the thing that I struggle with the most. My core fear is, what if I'm a bad person? And I think for everyone with OCD, our core fear seems like it's the most significant thing in the world. But especially with moral scrup, gosh, it's the core of who we are. We want to be good. We want to connect with others. I mean, all of these things. So I think it often feels like if we can't answer these questions, then how do we know who we are as humans? In my mind, it's always been, well, how can I possibly step forward with anything if I don't know that I'm good and don't know who I am? But all of that, again, is just a distortion of OCD, because with moral scrup, it feels like there's some secret you hiding under there. And actually the real you is the you who's already here tonight and just showing up as you.
I love that, Katie. Thank you. Jen wrote, yes, I heard someone say this week, you have nothing you look forward to ever and you need help. I'm depressed and struggling to keep doing life till I look forward to something again. I love that. And you will. And you will. And I think we shouldn't put so much pressure on ourselves to look forward to something. I found in my personal experience when I was really struggling with depression that the passion and desire found me. I didn't try to find it or look for it. I just did what I needed to do because that's what people told me that I needed to do to make myself better. And suddenly I started to feel things again. And it's kind of like love, right? They say it happens when you least expect it. And that's kind of how I found my passion. So.
And I also, just a little further, Nathan said with me, it's is the other person a good person? And yes, that can feel just as challenging with people in our lives or with people around us, where I often hear this kind of combined with relationship OCD too, where it's like, my partner did this thing. Well, what if my partner's not a good person? What if it means, what if it means that? And that can be, gosh, just as plaguing.
For sure. Hi, Phyllis. I've been struggling with feeling that there's nothing I want to get out of bed for. And I'm so sorry you feel that way. I think that a lot of what we've been talking about pertains to that. And I know it can be really, really hard. And the other piece that I will add is to start small. And so, you don't need to look forward to some big thing and try to get, if you are, I don't know if you are struggling to get out of bed, that may just be a feeling, but if you are, I love a short walk. I love if you haven't taken a shower, or maybe you're behind on your activities of daily life, right? Like, what are little things that you can do and you can feel good about doing? Don't compare yourself to others. Don't minimize your own experience. Just because somebody else next door can get out of bed and walk outside and go to work, and that's easy for them, doesn't mean it should be easy for you. There are lots of things that are easy for you that they struggle with. So, we don't ever want to compare struggle and compare pain. All we want to do is set small, tiny goals that we can accomplish. And so, feelings aren't facts, as Katie said. Choose something small and just do that. And I'm not saying that. And the other biggest thing to realize is that this is the other thing. Just because you do it doesn't mean you will feel better afterwards. And don't do the activity or the action to feel better, right? So that is not the goal. The goal is to engage yourself in behavioral activation and opposite action, knowing that over time, your feelings will start to change. Your thought process will start to change. The thoughts will start to change. How you behave, respond to the thoughts will start to change. But we don't want to use feelings as a barometer for how we're doing. If you do the thing and you feel better, that is icing. That is awesome. But we don't want to do it and then go, oh, I still feel like crap, and use that as saying, oh, that didn't hurt, that didn't work, this is bullshit, I'm done.
I also, to give a more specific example of what Ethan was just saying, I love encouraging folks, like in the morning, if you're struggling to get out of bed or have something to look forward to actually even write something down, whether it's on your phone or on a piece of paper, of one small thing that you could potentially look forward to doing today. And that could be as small as, and something really specific. It might be, I have strawberries in my fridge. I'm really excited to eat this strawberry, or I'm really excited to walk outside and see that really pretty tree outside. And picking a moment, whether or not you feel like it, to do that thing that you wrote down and to engage in all 5 senses and to reflect on what it means to be doing that in that moment can be a really beautiful thing, to pick something really, really specific, even if it feels really small.
Beautiful. I'm going to jump around a little bit. I love CJ's, what they wrote. If you're beating yourself up, ask, would I say this to a friend? Probably not. I always say there is a awful salesman in our head that convinces us of everything every day. And if that salesman were in real life and you were shopping, you wouldn't ever listen to this person, ever, ever, ever. But for some reason, when that voice in your head says like, hey, you're this, you're that, all these things, this is true, you're like, you're right. Oh my God, that's so right. And by the time you recognize that that's just that voice, you finally put it to bed, and then the next day you get up and the voice goes blah, 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 blah. And you're like, you're right. You're right. So I always love thinking about, like, if a friend spoke to me like this, if a salesperson spoke, would I still be? No, I would never, ever, ever let someone talk to me the way I talk to myself.
Mm-hmm. I love also thinking about, how would you talk to your younger self? Like thinking about little you, I think can be so helpful. And from a theological perspective, loving your neighbor as you love yourself. I always come back to, and it's such an interesting thing because everyone always focuses on the love your neighbor piece and less so the love yourself piece. And to remember, it doesn't say love your neighbor in the same really crappy way that you love yourself, right? We have to actually be nice to ourselves in order to live that out in the world.
Absolutely. I love Amy speaking to the lapse and the blips and the glitch, the majors. Even if you have a full-blown relapse, you don't go back to square one. You've learned too much for that, and you can still get back up 1,000 billion%. You absolutely can. I wholeheartedly believe that. So Isostasia and Chad left comments that are similar, or at least in what. So Isostasia, and I'm so sorry. I had a hellish day. Went to get some blood work done in a big hospital, and I just lost it. Contamination OCD1. I cried like 3 hours straight. And I would also, you may have commented afterwards, I'm not so great at, and maybe Katie will see it. But my other question is, you have contamination OCD and you went to a big hospital anyway. I'm guessing you got the blood work because you said you got some blood work done. So even though you cried 3 times or cried 3 hours straight, even if you did get looped in and wrapped up into
Didn't win.
Didn't you go do it? Didn't you? Oh, like you went to the thing that you knew might trigger you. Okay, it did. But you could have avoided it altogether. You could have been like, oh, I have contamination OCD. I'm not going to a big hospital, right? This is a win. Again, it doesn't have to be pretty. You just cried for 3 hours and washed your dishes, i.e. got blood work. And I think I would try to reframe and look at that. Maybe one day down the road, you'll cry for 2 hours or 1 hour or not at all. But today, knowing that this is a big trigger for you, I think this is a win. I don't know how you feel, Katie.
Oh, I saw the exact same thing. I was like, Isostasia, you just went and literally did the hardest possible thing. And I mean, I can think about even with exposures, when I used to do a really hard exposure and then kind of like go throw up, or sorry for anybody with emetophobia, or not sorry, good exposure, but or go get sick afterward. And gosh, it didn't, cancel out the exposure. It was actually, I'm having this emotional response because I did something so challenging. And Isostasia, I would say it's the opposite. It's you did this freaking really, really hard thing. OCD did not win. And of course it feels tough. So your only job now is actually to give yourself compassion for that, to be like, wow, of course I'm feeling really emotional after this. How can I care for myself now and also celebrate this really big win?
And that brings me to Chad's comment, which is got to have self-compassion too. My health OCD has been flaring a bit, and I may have turned to Dr. Google compulsively a couple times. I have the urge to seek reassurance as well, but I resisted, gave myself grace, and moved forward how I know I need to. I have health OCD. I totally relate to this. I relate to Isostasia too. And self-compassion, you've heard me talk about it a million times. You've heard Katie talk about it a million times. It really is the gift that keeps on giving. It is the solution to the past. Is not the solution, but it is the healthy way to cope with the past. It is the healthy way to cope with lapses. It is the healthy way to cope with comorbidities and multiple diagnoses. Self-compassion. The only thing that's coming to work, this is the technical term, is the shit. It really is. So I'm super proud of you. Dr. Google is just this sexy, alluring thing that is so hard to resist.
You're cheating on Dr. Google with Dr. ChatGPT.
No, I wasn't going to say that because clearly somebody's still using Dr. Google. So I didn't want to give any ideas. So way to go, Katie. Insert moral scrupulosity. Anyway, so, but no, that's what I'm saying. It's at your fingertips. It's so easy. So give yourself lots of self-compassion as you said you did. And I'm super proud of you, Chad. That's awesome.
And I love one of my favorite things when you do a compulsion is to tell folks, you can be compassionate without being satisfied. And I think that's a really easy way to remember, I can give myself so much compassion for engaging in that compulsion. OCD really is that freaking hard. And I can care about myself enough to want to step forward in a different direction, to not be satisfied with doing it and to choose something different tomorrow.
Absolutely. CJ wrote,
Cash, ask Jeeves.
I saw that. That is so old school.
I love that.
Didn't Ask become Ask? Ask was Ask Jeeves, right? Ask.com.
I don't know.
I think it was. That's hilarious. Cash bringing the funny tonight. CJ wrote, we could
post on Ask Jeeves back in the day.
Yeah, and the Yahoo support, the Yahoo group, basically pre-Reddit.
Ask Alice if somebody comment if anybody asked Alice things they were worried about when they were younger. Do you remember Ask Alice?
Never heard of it.
Oh, I used to ask Alice all of my questions.
What is Alice?
I don't know. It might have been some weird Reddit.
We're still young. There was a time where all we had to ask was our moms. Okay, that was it.
Well, I just found out. Okay, sorry, but I have to say this. I just found out from Ethan recently that there was a time. Because if y'all don't know, Ethan's 12 years older than me. I'm putting that out there. So we like slightly different compulsion times in our lives. But I found out that Ethan is old enough that he used to do compulsions at a library. Like you looked things up at a library. It's baffling to me.
Does this mute button still work? I love the CJ. We could get the lady from Great Britain who does OCD doodles to make artwork or have a submission process for pictures, graphics. That's in regards to the calendar. And Laura's a friend, and I think that's a great idea, CJ. So we should definitely get on that. And Isostasia is getting lots and lots and lots of love. And it is rough. And everybody, I love all the support in this. It makes me so happy. Yeah, I remember. So Beth, that was me after the DMV Isostasia. Sorry, yes, I was thinking. Beth went to the DMV to get her license so she could do her hermit crab business, and it was she did it, but it was really triggering for her, and but she cried and washed dishes all the way to the DMV and got what she needed. So everybody's doing their thing, which is awesome. I am not posting Cash's comments there. Let's see here. Heard something like, it's not the mountain ahead of you, it's the pebble in your shoe. I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah, my doctoral thesis was called Smoothing the Stone because of like that pebble, and it's like, how do we smooth the stone through treatment? Oh, thank you, Cash. Appreciate it. Sorry, Ethan.
It's all right. Whatever.
Whatevs.
Yeah, exactly.
That's okay. If you look down later, he tells you to mute me, so it's okay. It goes back and forth.
Exactly. Eric wrote, thank you guys. I have some core fears. Core fear Katie does. My therapists have been really helpful with it. One key clue is that I treat myself in a very harsh way that I would never treat someone else. Yeah. I totally get that. Absolutely. I love this. Capable and highly responsible can be a trauma response too. We never know, can only do our thing. Absolutely, Lee. Totally agree with that and love that. I'm going quickly, and I know Katie's reading the comments too, but if there was something that I missed or that we missed and you want answered or just highlighted, you can copy and paste your comment back at the bottom and we'll catch it. Right? And not only that, but it's already 7:53. Time is moving so fast. So let me see if I can catch. Katie, could you give some examples of exposure for feeling like you're a bad person?
Yes, I can.
I was a bad person on Sunday. I broke the law.
Oh, okay. Can we say this before? And then I really will answer this question. Ethan, is that okay? Can I say this on the air?
No, I just teed you up for it so you couldn't say it.
Okay. Ethan, y'all, you ready for this? Ethan got a speeding ticket on the way home from Florida where we were visiting my parents. And I will say, I was so, as somebody with moral scrupulosity, I was so incredibly impressed by Ethan's response, because anytime I've ever gotten a ticket, some of y'all have even heard me talk about this, I have like freaked out. I sit there and I shake and I apologize and I tell them I think I'm an awful person. The one police officer, which I've since grown since this, but the one I actually sent an apology note to. So, I mean, all kinds of things. And then I'm with Ethan. Ethan is like so suave in this moment. Ethan's just sitting there like tapping on the wheel, music's still on, forgets to turn the car off. The guy like rolls up the window, and it was so baffling to me as somebody who does not have moral scrupulosity that he just was not anxious remotely by this experience.
Yep. And I don't know, but I'm always super polite, and
he was super polite. No, he was super polite, but it just was
make it sound like it's like, hey, copper, how you doing? What's up with you? What do you come here often? Yeah,
Chad, I love me a bad boy. Yeah, and he was super polite, but it just watching him And the last time I got pulled over, I was stressed about it for like 4 weeks. And Ethan heard me talk about thinking I was going to go to prison. So like seeing the difference and how we respond just based on OCD themes.
Yeah, don't ever tell that story again. It's like, hey, is that your radar gun? Are you just happy to see me? I mean, like, no. Like, but anyway, I just didn't freak out. But at the end of the day, I was very respectful and
sorry. Yes, he really was. You were so nice.
He's like, you left your music on. It was excuse me, I have places to be and things to do. What law thing?
No, you're fine when he came. I was just setting the scene.
It was we had a nice romantic afternoon for sure. But go ahead, Katie.
Sorry, let me bring it back to why we're here. Yeah, so this primarily actually are the exposures that I've navigated in my own life, and of course always work with your therapist to figure out how are you targeting your core fears, because I think it's really important to develop a hierarchy and not to start too high, because we really want to focus on the response prevention. And even if it's exposures around being a bad person and moral scrupulosity, the response prevention actually becomes kind of the most important. But for me, some of those were related to scripting and actually saying, yep, I may or may not be a horrible person, and either writing out or saying full narratives on all the reasons I possibly could be, and using non-engagement responses, saying, yeah, maybe, maybe not. Some more intense stuff was making newspaper articles where I would actually write an article about why I was a horrible human and make up potential crimes that I could commit. So there was some harm OCD stuff in there too, and read them out. We used to call it like Katie, that I was a chaplain at the time. So we'd call the headline Katie, the mean chaplain, which sounds kind of funny now, but those were like the headline articles. But a lot of it, yeah, whether it's writing, scripting, or even things in real life, there can be social anxiety exposures combined to that, where maybe you go to the checkout line, and this doesn't mean that you have to be rude, but we get to say, maybe not say thank you. And maybe we get to go outside and we get to sit with all of the emotions around, what if I was mean? What if that means that I'm not a good person? And we can even do some scripting around that.
Love that. The comments are hysterical.
I wasn't watching.
No, Ethan and the Popo. And is that my radar gun? There's a lot of stuff. He flirted. Look, I will say this. Where is it? Oh, Nathan wrote, if you see a police car behind you, it makes you think you broke some law. I will tell you that I saw him.
Oh, this was bananas. Yeah.
I saw him in front of me. I want to get to one more comment, but I will say, I wanted to get home really bad. It was a 10-hour drive. I chose to break the law. I didn't care. And when I decided to speed, and not 150, like
Amy's comment,
like 87 and a 70, whatever. What?
Amy's comment.
Pardon. Yeah. I God forbid Katie ever needs to testify for me in jury.
Why?
Because you're going to be like, oh yeah, the cop came over and Ethan was like, hey there, and he had his music, and God knows what you'll say. Anyway, so I was like carefully watching out, driving safe, but I was carefully watching out, and I was like, all right, and I did this for 4.5 hours. The drive is 10 hours. This is 4.5 hours, and when there was a hole that I couldn't see, I slowed down, and and then I sped back up, and then my mother called, and I wasn't paying attention at all, and then I saw the cop on the side, and I looked at my speed, and I knew I wouldn't be able to slow down in time. And I immediately said to my mom and Katie, I just got a ticket. And I hadn't even passed the cop yet. And I just the spacing of the cars, I was like, he totally nailed me. And sure enough, as soon as I passed him, he jumped in his car and went. I was like, oh man. So that was the other reason I wasn't like surprised and nervous, is because the minute I saw the cop, I knew I got the ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth matters, because
yes, Valerie, we do not condone speeding as a part of the IOCDF. We condone safe driving.
Yes, that's what I just said. I did it safely. Whatever. This is our last live stream. Katie will be.
We're getting canceled. It's over.
But what I will say is, speaking of moral scrupulosity, the cop, when he asked me, I told him the truth. I was very polite. When he came back, he said, I lowered your speed on the ticket so you don't get points, or your insurance doesn't change. You just have to pay the fine. And he walks away, and I turned to Katie. I'm like, did he just lie? Because my first thought when he did that is, as long as we're making things up, let's just pretend I wasn't speeding at all and call it a day, But like, I was really freaked out by the fact that he completely made something up. So then I was like, anyway. So we're all just doing the best we can, but being nice and polite. And then as long as I've dug myself in a ditch, I jump back on the freeway and I immediately go 90 again. And Katie's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I already got one. Like, if I get pulled
every
over,
time I get a ticket, I go 10 miles an hour for like
no, because if I get pulled over again, I can say, look, I already got one. We're good. We're good.
Again, IOCDF does not condone speeding, even as an exposure. This is a message from Katie and Ethan.
I don't normally speed. It was a Sunday. It would have been a long week. I do want to end on there is a kitty behind me.
Oh, is Bonnie right by you?
Oh.
Oh, did Ethan freeze? You're frozen.
Nathan's all like, I rarely break the speed limit. Whatever. My next goal is to get a ticket for minimum speeding. I'm going to go under the minimum speed limit to see if I can get a ticket that way. I think that would be cool.
I want to, before you close out real quick, Ethan, sorry. Somebody asked about music too. Can we also share favorite music?
Yeah, I just want to, let's do that on the end.
Okay.
Because I just want to hit this comment, which is so important and it's so awesome. Hopefully they're still here. I love this. Welcome, welcome. It took me years to try to even join a community. I was so scared to try new things. I was diagnosed with OCD 4 years ago. After all these years, it's my first time interacting with people, even if it's on a group chat. So I think this is a win. I so hope you're here still. If you are, leave a comment and just say hi. It is a huge win. And it is so hard to be willing to show up for yourself. It can be so scary. It doesn't matter if it's in person or in a group, even just acknowledging to yourself that, yes, I do have OCD, but there's help, there's hope, there's other people. You are not alone. It is a massive, massive win. I hope this is your first of many, many visits, but I want to welcome you and thank you. And I'm sure everybody else will tell you the exact same thing. Katie, thoughts?
No, just I'm so proud of you. And gosh, I remember in my own life how hard that was to show up for something for the first time and to connect with other folks navigating OCD. And we're with you. We're proud of you. So glad you're here. And I just feel free to email me, feel free to reach out to us after. We just are glad you're a part of the community. So thank you.
Absolutely. With that, I see what you're asking. Okay. Yeah, we can answer that. What kind of music do you guys like?
What kind of music do you like, Ethan?
Go ahead, Katie.
No, you go ahead.
No. I'm pretty eclectic. I know what Katie's like waiting to see if I'll say it. She's also frozen. So yes, I love music.
You were frozen.
No, you were frozen.
Every time you move your computer, you freeze.
I wasn't moving my computer.
Yeah, you were. Okay, well, I don't know. Never mind. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I like everything.
Oh, and it says just moved from Twitch to YouTube. So that's Charlie. Charlie, so glad you're here. So glad you're here.
Oh, I love that, Charlie. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're awesome. Please, seriously, please send me an email or send us a message. We're just super, super glad you're here.
Absolutely. I like everything. I know that's a cop-out answer. On the drive home, I literally listened to 70s rock for 10 hours straight. But with that, go-tos. I feel like I listen to like softer, chiller music because I'm a pretty amped person. So like coffee house singer-songwriter, stripped down, but really a fan of everything. And if I don't say musical theater, Katie will kill me. Like, you're not being honest. So I know that's what she's thinking. So yes, I do love musical theater. I was a musical theater kid. I was in all the plays and musicals and things like that. So I really do love everything. But Katie, feel free if I didn't call myself.
I think you hit on all of it.
I will out you on your running music if you don't hit it.
What's my running music?
What? 2000s pop. Every day.
Yeah.
Backstreet, Britney, 98 Degrees, YouTube videos. It's like a playlist, and it's on every time she runs inside. She's in the basement, and I can hear it 2 floors up in my office. And
I listen to DJ Groovy's 90 mix, and you see all the old 90s music videos. No, I love old 90s and 2000s pop. I love Gosh, I love alternative rock as well, and then also love musical theater. And I really love. I got to see one of my all-time favorites earlier this year, I guess a couple months ago, which was I got to go see Hanson, which was like my favorite thing under the sun growing up, and it was like my dream to get to see Hanson as an adult. So that was super, super cool too. And I actually still continue to carry on. I had like an OCD breakthrough moment at the Hanson concert. So my therapist and I call it like my Hanson moment, which is kind of cool.
And then she came home and told me how hot Zach was and that he had a birthday and they brought him a cake. And
I did say that too.
And yeah, so we're feeling good. I love that everybody loves, everybody, all the same music. We're all the same lovers of everything.
Cash, they did Mbop. It was really wonderful.
I think Val said she loves Beyonce. Agreed.
Dorina wants to hear about the breakthrough. Can I say it really quick, Ethan? I know we're over time.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So I've already shared that I have moral scrupulosity. I really struggle with being assertive. And that's something that I continue to work on. And I struggle with holding my space. Even if there's something that's really challenging, I struggle to not just kind of like curl over and be like, no, it's totally fine. And that's something I'm working on. So we were at the concert, and I was with a good friend of mine, Emily, who some of y'all know from Stick with the Ick support groups and other live streams. She's a psychologist in the community, and she really doesn't like Hanson, but was going with me just because I liked Hanson.
A good friend.
Yeah, very good friend.
Hanson doesn't sit in the middle for anybody.
Yeah, so it was not her. And her husband came with us too. Like neither one of them liked it, but they came with us. Or not with us. Ethan, you didn't go. You were doing a live stream, actually. I chose the community over Hanson. But I had to run in the bathroom, and I came back, and long story short, there had been somebody who was kind of belligerent, who had taken my spot that Emily had been trying to hold and had kind of pushed through the crowd. And we had been waiting there since early in the afternoon, and people had been waiting in line, and they had been pushing up through all of these people and had been like really upsetting people and all sorts of stuff. And Emily got upset enough that she actually walked out of the concert and was like, I'm not going to stand here anymore. And I got so upset because it was my friend who had come with me and everybody was having fun. So I ended up going up and standing and like making my space known next to this person. And when their friend went to the bathroom and they said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm just holding the space, which is the same thing they had said to Emily. And they said, I forget what happened, but I essentially told them, you were really mean to my friend, and I'm really like not here for it. And I'm going to stand next to you and make you feel uncomfortable the rest of the concert. And it made her uncomfortable enough that she actually ended up leaving, and everybody around me who she had been bullying the whole time I was in the bathroom ended up cheering because they all kind of got their spots back from the people who had been pushing through. And I felt so empowered. Emily ended up coming back. I use the same phrase. I've never done anything like that because I'm always so nervous about, does it make me a bad person? Is it this? Is it that? And it was the first time that I realized, I can actually hold my space, and sometimes that can be really effective. And it actually ended up inspiring me last week while I was navigating a bug that the Stick with the Ick app caught. For anybody who's a part of that, tech was down on payments for 9 days. I was not sleeping, and it was like horrific. And I ended up actually being assertive. And my therapist told me to use the Hanson concert moment. She was like, be assertive with people who are helping you fix this. And it was how it ultimately got fixed, was me not putting sunshines in my email and actually saying, no, this needs to happen. And it kind of made me realize we don't have to be mean. We don't have to be a jerk. We can still be ourselves, but we can also be assertive and things can get done. And that doesn't make us a bad person.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing.
Sorry, that was like a whole long rant on
No, it was fine. If I didn't look like I was paying attention, I was looking for a picture because I read Robert Spence went to high school with Beyonce, which, Robert, I actually didn't realize you were from Houston. Because I have a lot of friends that went to HSBVA that also went to high school with Beyonce. So I think we probably know people in common. And so anyway, I caught that and I was like, oh my gosh, we totally have to have that conversation. I went to high school with Usher. I was looking for the pictures, what I was doing. So anyway, so we'll all come back, share pics of all the people we went to high school with, and it'll be a lot of fun. But I will say, in all seriousness, Katie came back. She felt so good about herself, and I was so insanely proud of her. It's really hard to own your space and step up and stand up for yourself and your friends, especially when you kind of feel like you're always in the wrong. So I was incredibly proud.
And that's like, I mean, honestly, Ethan's like, we're trying to get off, Katie, like, stop talking, but
no, I'm not.
Okay. That's where I know I said at the beginning of this stream that I was having a little bit of a tough time. I've been navigating this week some challenging comments with some things that I thought were pretty loving that I put out on social media, and some challenging messages. And I've really struggled with that. And I think I have a really tough time. One of the biggest things I've been stuck on, even with folks who have sent me not such nice things, are, well, what if I'm not being nice by not responding? Or what if I'm not being nice by deleting that and not engaging? And that's been really, really challenging. And what I want to commit to y'all as I continue to navigate, I was telling Ethan beforehand, there were some compulsions I wanted to do. There were some things that I've already talked through my therapist that I don't want to, that I was thinking about doing with that. And I want to lean into all of the stuff that I just talked through now, about being able to hold space and not be the quote unquote, nice, morally scrupulous person, and just trust myself and do the best I can.
Beautifully said. And with that, thanks for hanging on with us. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Katie. If y'all want to see more of Katie, just leave it in the comments. Maybe we can make this a once a month or every other year thing.
Every other year.
I'm just kidding. By the way, we didn't make this clear for those of you that this may be your first time. Katie's my wife. Nice. So if you see like some fun interplay between us, that's why. I realized that probably with some new folks on the stream, they may not have known that. So that is why we like to give each other some crap from time to time. But it is all with immense amounts of love. Anyway, with that in mind, y'all are incredible. Thank you so much for. Thank you. I saw. Are there trolls in the comments?
No, they were saying trolls to me, like when I was saying there were.
Oh, sorry.
No, not trolls in our comments here.
Okay. Well, thank you all for being here. You're awesome. Cash wrote Ethan is dodgy. He's not wrong.
But he wrote, we love Katie.
Listen, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. Y'all are amazing. Thank you for supporting everyone. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for supporting each other. Charlie, comment of the night. Thank you for showing up for yourself, for us. It's so inspiring and so inspiring for everyone to see that it's so hard to take steps forward on your behalf and be proactive when you're struggling. So that's awesome. As always, I want to thank the IOCDF for having Katie and I on. Tomorrow, Ask the Expert.
As a side note, they do not condone speeding.
They may.
They may. Sorry.
Anyway, you want to say that one more time, Katie?
I'm just making sure they don't cancel us.
Well, if they do, we'll just have to do it.
I'm totally kidding, y'all. I'm totally kidding.
Anyway, because nobody speeds. Anyway, I guess I can't fight the ticket now since there's a live stream of the internet. Totally.
A live stream where I also said that you didn't care and played music and tapped.
And that wasn't true. I definitely cared, and I turned off the music just in case he wasn't a Phil Collins.
Yeah, I mean, new disclaimer. We're gonna write this in the thing for the IOCDF at the beginning.
Don't do what Ethan does. Anyway, tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, Ask the Experts with Chris Cronson. He has an awesome guest, Dr. Amy Mary Askin. She's fantastic. So please, I have no guilt. Anyway, so definitely tune in. With that, as always, subscribe, follow, like to all the social medias on all the platforms. Be notified when we're on. Also, of course, the IOCDF is a donor-funded nonprofit, so please consider making a donation at iocdf.org/donate. And of course, if you have questions, comments, concerns, need anything, you can always find resources and help at iocdf.org. We love you. We thank you. I'll see you, I think, 2 weeks from tonight.
Ash is going to review our old live streams. Please don't.
Yeah, he's like, what else did he confess? It's like, you know how people get caught on Twitter? Like mine's going to be like IOCDF live stream. Somebody's going to pop up from 2013. I'm done. It's over. Anyway, wow, I lost my train of thought. Now I'm actually scared and having all kinds of feelings and thoughts. Thank you so much for spending your Tuesday evening with us. Katie, thank you for joining us as well. We really love you and appreciate you. With all of that, have a wonderful evening. Stay safe, stay vigilant, feel the field. Don't let OCD off the hook. And we'll see you very, very soon. Have a
Can we go out with music? You have music on your end you can do.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
You said Katie's email. I'll put my email, and then you can also, the other place that folks can get, comment has failed to post. Okay, my email is katie.odunn@gmail.com. You can also send me a message through Stick with the Ick, the app. I'm really good at responding there. I don't know why it won't be coming. Yeah, I can hear it.
Cool. Here, I'll do it, Katie. All right, this is Katie on Soft Rock Favorites, WIOCDF. Tune in 2 weeks. We'll be talking all the things that happening to Katie will be talking. With that, stay feeling. Stay safe, feel vigilant. Okay, I'm just going to stop talking. Have a great night. Talk to you later. Adios. Sayonara. Good night.